Let me shut my tablet. Let me turn it back on.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentle drunks. Welcome, everyone, to the Fourth Dimension. Big book study, that is. My name is Kevin Olson. I am a recovered alcoholic. I'm very glad to be here. I'm very glad you are all here. I love you all very much. I love Alcoholics Anonymous with my whole heart. Every good thing I have in my life is as a result of Alcoholics Anonymous. Every good thing. And my problems are of my own making. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you guys are here. Let's have some fun tonight, man. I think tonight we've been through some heavy stuff, man. Last couple of weeks were pretty heavy duty. Step 4, man. Talking about fears, talking about our sex conduct, and if it's uncomfortable, it's kind of supposed to be. It's not easy stuff. If it was easy, everyone would come to AA and everyone would stay sober. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work. In fact, we talk about willpower, guys. And what I'm going to say will sound controversial in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, but it is affirmed in almost all of Bill Wilson's writings that the 12 steps actually take a lot of willpower to do. We're quick to throw willpower right out the window, aren't we, in AA? What do we hear? Willpower is of absolutely no use to you newcomers. Willpower right out the window. It's like, okay, well, pump the brakes there, Sonny Jim. All right. Step 1 tells us that willpower is of absolutely no use, but you better believe it takes a lot of willpower to get through this stuff. And in fact, we're going to talk about step 5 tonight. And I'm going to give you guys an example of how self-will, almost kicked my butt in terms of step 5. And it wasn't until I aligned my selfish self-will with God's will and then used all the willpower I had along those lines to do the right thing, to go do step 5, and my life absolutely changed. So anyway, guys, sorry, I got off on a tangent there right away. God must have wanted me to say that. I don't know why, but anyway, let's start with the set-aside prayer tonight, as we almost always start with. Tonight we're getting off to a little slow start. That's all right. God, please help me to set aside everything I think I know about you, about me, about my fellow man, about the 12 steps. And please allow me to gain a fresh new vision, perspective, and understanding of what you, what me, what my fellow man, and the 12 steps are all about. Amen. Okay. And as this is the Fourth Dimension Big Book study, I always like to read the 2 parts of our book that refer to the fourth dimension. So first of all, on page 8, Bill Wilson writes that I was to know happiness. Oh, sorry, I was soon to be catapulted. Page 8, I was soon to be catapulted. How can I forget? Catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. And then on page 25, oh, sorry, guys. On page 25, Bill Wilson writes, that we have found much of heaven and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. Okay. We're going to be catapulted. We're going to be rocketed. And for all who will, for the sake of tradition and custom of the fourth dimension big book study, everybody put one hand up like this. Everybody put another hand up like this. Come on, Judy, I see you there. And everybody go, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't be afraid to have fun, guys. We absolutely insist on enjoying life, okay? Our life is no longer a veil of tears. Thank God. Man, my life was a veil of tears. You better believe it. You better believe I have been lifted up from the scrap heap to the best life I've ever known. I've never had it so good as I do right now today. And I will say that my life improved immeasurably 3 minutes ago when I got on the call with all you fine folks, and I couldn't be happier to be here. So yeah, anyway, it's been heavy, man. Step 4, going through all of our resentments and all of our fears and all of our sex conduct. And I get it. And I understand, we provided a solution. Thank God, the big book in Alcoholics Anonymous, and God gives us a solution. And we learned about how to pray for the people that we resent, and then look at things in a whole new way. Look at, where am I to blame? Where am I to blame in the past? Where am I to blame in the mirror? Where am I to blame today? We learned about fear. Okay, we learned about how to look at fear, how self-reliance is what is causing my fears. We learned how to pray for our fears, and then how to trust God, and how when I look at things from a perspective of doing God's will, I keep that little circle inside the big circle. Do you guys remember that from last week? Keep the little circle inside the big circle. I have nothing to fear. Sandy Beach, great speaker, man. He world, legendary AA speaker from Florida, would say, your father is a king. Your father is a king. You have nothing to fear. And that takes us into the second part, that even if this fear happened, I know that I will be well and taken care of and loved, and have a meaning of purpose, and have a meaning and be able to live a life of service. Okay, I'm going to tie this into the step 11 prayer when we get to step 11, seeking to understand others and to love others and be of service to others. I've known countless people in AA over the years who were either had just experienced an indescribable tragedy in their family, or were indescribably sick with a disease that were still being of service in Alcoholics Anonymous. Why? Because they were lifted up. And while they were not thinking about themselves, they were thinking about others. When they're thinking about others, they're not thinking about themselves. Okay? They were trying to be useful, usefully whole. And just to the extent that they could show up for a service commitment with a smile, even when they didn't want to, because they had to put their willpower into it and go ahead and do it. They went and did it, and they were lifted up. Anyway, okay. So, and then we talked about our sex conduct, and that's always, a little gnarly, right? For all of us. Hey, we all have sex problems, right? That's what our book says. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. Okay. And some of us are on a straight pepper diet, and some of us would give us no flavor for our fare in any event. And I'm going to talk about that tonight when we're doing a step 5. But man, I had to get that stuff out. Okay. And that's what we're really going to do tonight. What we're really going to talk about tonight is step 5. I'm ambitious tonight. I'm going to try to do 5, 6, and 7. Some of you are probably chuckling that, yeah, good luck, Kevin. Good luck. You're not going to get through 2 paragraphs in the big book. Let's believe God is more powerful. But yeah, I'm going to try to get through 5, 6, and 7. And, step 5, simply for anyone who doesn't know, step 4, you write it all down. Step 5, you go tell someone else. You go talk about what you wrote down in your step 4. Simply for anyone who's here, who's new to AA, that's it. That's what it is. Okay. We're going to go read our step 4, rather. We're going to read it to someone else. And, one of the analogies, that I make is, you guys would have heard me say this before, prior to doing step 4, all my problems and all my thinking, all my fears, all that stuff is similar to looking in the spin cycle of a dryer. Okay. I got clothes in the dryer and the spin cycle's on. Okay. And I'm looking in there, trying to see what's in there. Right. And that's hard. I'll have sponsees that are I'll say, how are you doing on your step 4? Well, I haven't started writing it down yet, but I got it all up here. I just got to write it down. It's yeah, all right, Bubba. Up here is where it's going to kill me. Okay. Yeah, I know it's up there, dum-dum. Yeah, we got to write it down. Let's go. Okay. I heard this, man. I love this. This guy from this group in Buffalo, New York, he came to our group and we was talking about, they do step 3 like we do in the back. They all get down on their knees together and do step 3 as a group, and it's wonderful. And then they have pens, and they throw pens at the guy who just did his step 3, because yeah, you got to start writing it down, getting it out. Okay. So in step 4, what we've done is open that washing machine, that dryer door, and we're taking everything out and we're laying it all out. And now I can see what is really in there. Okay. One of my favorite lines in our book, though, is that solitary self-appraisal is insufficient, which means that self cannot always see self. Okay. And I am not always the best judge of what's going on, even in my own life. And the purpose of a sponsor is that they can give me judgment and clarity without any emotion attached to that plan or that idea, or in this case, that resentment or that fear or that sex conduct. And so they can help me to see the reality of a lot of these situations. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you, when I get to step 4 and I'm doing my column 4 and I think I know what my part is, I want you to know a lot of times I'm off or I'm wrong. Okay. It's still a good exercise for me to go in and reveal it all. But sometimes my sponsor will say, like, Kevin, I don't see that at all. Here's what I see. Especially, you know, and I'm going to say this too. I'm just going to get into this. In AA in Calgary, where I'm from, somehow not long ago, this concept of pillars came to life. And I don't know where this really came from. But the idea in Calgary is that you can have pillars. You have a sponsor, but then you have pillars. You have lots of people around you that are supporting you. And like, I get the ethic, I get the idea, but here's the problem with that, is that I need one person who knows the whole story. I need at least one person who knows me inside and out, so that when I bring him stuff in an inventory, he knows who I am. He knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. He knows my history, all that stuff. Okay. And it takes time to get there with a sponsor. That's why a sponsor you've had for a while is invaluable. If I'm going to these pillars, I might tell a pillar about here's a relationship thing, or here's a work thing, or here's a financial thing. They don't know my whole story. And so they're going to try to give me their judgment and clarity from another angle, but they don't know the whole story. And so I'm not a big one. I'm a big one for fellowship and I have hundreds of friends in AA. But I think it's important, all of this to say, step 5, I believe we ought to do it with our sponsor. That's my belief. Unless for some reason you don't think it's a good idea, you know, you can do it with clergy, you can do it with whoever, but I think I do mine with my sponsor, and he's one person who knows the whole story. Anyway, so we're going to talk about step 5 tonight. And what we're really doing in step 5, we open that laundry door, that dryer door, we put all the clothes out. And now we're going to invite someone else over to take a look at all this stuff and tell us what's still in style and what needs to go. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Let's get into step 5. The chapter is called Into Action. I haven't even looked at the gallery view yet. Hang on. Is Brad here?
I'm here, Kevin.
Oh, hey, rock and roll. Awesome. Can you read for us tonight, Brad?
You bet. I'd love to.
All right, man. So the chapter is on page 72. The chapter is called Into Action. And, you know, I always like to point out chapter 6, Into Action, is where step 5 begins. It does not say into thinking. Okay. It does not say into wishing. It does not say into meetings, okay? It says into action, all right? And, you know, here's the thing, like this step 5 is the first one, technically, where we're gonna go involve someone else, right? And so that's why they call this chapter Into Action. You gotta remember the perspective of the big book, published April 10th, 1939. It may be that you were one person by yourself out there in the world with one copy of this book in your hand. Okay. And you have not had the benefit and the luxury and the privilege of working with a sponsor who's helped you through it. You've had to do it in the book on your own. If that were the case, you know, you did some step 1, you read step 1, you did step 2, you got the step 3 prayer, you've done some written work on your own. This is the first step where you're going to go engage someone else, which means you're going to go talk to someone else. Okay. And now someone else is involved. We're getting right with ourselves, and we're getting right with God, and we're getting right with another person. Okay, for the first time ever. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get into this chapter. Guys, I just want to remind you all again of the context of what we're reading here again, okay? Imagine 1939, you have this book by yourself, okay? A lot of what they're going to explain here makes more sense when I look at it through that lens. And some of it, I'm just gonna just say right now, no longer applies. Some of this does not apply to us in 2024, and you'll see what I mean when we get there, okay? So, guys, cross your fingers. With any luck, I'll be able to get through steps 5, 6, and 7. But this stuff is so juicy. Like, I love this stuff. It's like listening to Mozart for me. So forgive me if I comment too much. In any event, Brad, let's kick it off.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. Hi, I'm Brad. I'm an alcoholic. I always like to share with people in and out of AA that there's one person in the world that knows me better than anybody else, and he loves me anyways. So,
Amen. Amen. I do. That's true.
Kevin's my sponsor for those that don't know, and he knows more about me than anybody else in this world. So, chapter 6, into action.
And I do love you. That's the point. That's what I wanted to say. Not that I know everything about you. I do love you. That's the point.
Yeah, but it's and that's the beauty of the thing. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter.
So that's a very fancy way of simply saying, go read your 4th step to your sponsor. Okay, that would be the plain language big book version of what we just read. Back to you, Brad.
This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there, Brad. I'm going to stop you there. There's only 2 places in this book where it says, if you don't do this, you will drink again. I think in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, that merits some serious consideration. 2 places where if we don't do this, you're going to drink. Does anybody remember the first one from last week? Judy, I see you in step 4, but what part in step 4? Do you recall? Do you remember? Maybe it's, do you want to say? Who, sorry, say again?
Give me 2 seconds. Hold on a minute. I'll give you the exact thing.
Very good, Judy.
Jeez. Anyways, if we do this and if we're not sorry, and we do
If
it
we're
again
not sorry for
our conduct or behavior, is that it?
our sex conduct. Yeah,
Yeah.
if our sex conduct doesn't change, and I think
And we
I think it's
continue to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience.
brilliant, Judy. Well done.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
That's exactly right. If we don't, if I don't clean up my sex conduct and continue to live the way that I had been living, we're quite sure to drink, period. Here's the second one. If I try to skip step 5, if I don't do step 5, or if I intentionally leave anything out of my step 5, if we skip this vital step, I am not likely to overcome drinking. Okay. So I think it's important to mention those 2 points in our book and to highlight that. Back to you, Brad.
Best reason first. Time after time. Sorry, the best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk.
What does invariably mean? What does invariably mean? Without variation. What does that mean? It means every darn time that somebody didn't do step 5, they drank again. It says almost invariably. There's always got to be one special snowflake alcoholic that didn't get drunk. Okay. But almost invariably, skip step 5, you're going to drink again. If I skip step 5, I will drink again. Okay. And we'll come more to come on that when we get to step 10. Okay. Back to you, Brad.
Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story.
You know, it's
More than-
interesting. He talks about humility here in step 5 in the 12 and 12. Humility is defined as a clear and honest recognition of who and what we really are, combined with a sincere desire to let God take us to what we could become. Okay. So that humility, I think for a lot of us comes in step 5 for the first time, because without doing step 5, how am I going to get a clear and honest recognition of who and what I really am, who I really am? Okay. I had to hear some tough stuff in my first step 5 with Father Brian. Okay. I'll talk about that tonight. After we get through this reading, but it's really those two ideas, okay? Humility. I got to be honest about who I am, but also know that God, not me, but God can lift me up to what I can become, okay? We'll talk more about humility when we get to step 7 in a little bit here, but, you know, to me, humility, I was always trying to humble myself before people. I thought I had to humble myself before people, and we don't humble ourselves before people in Alcoholics Anonymous. We humble ourselves only to the mighty and awesome power of God. That's it. We humble ourselves to God, not to people, okay? And I insist my sponsees humbled themselves to me, but that's a different story. That's a joke. That's just a joke. I'm just kidding. That was a little bit of Clancy, my grand sponsor, speaking through. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, back to you, Brad.
More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation. He knows in his heart he does not deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking.
So the part about leading the double life and so on, knowing that I was a fraud, that I'd done these terrible things, and I was still trying to maintain, you know, this normal life. Reading that part in the book, there's a few parts in the book that, like, the first time I read them, even before I came to really a big book study or had a sponsor, that I identified and understood right away what they meant, and that's one of them. That's one of them. That somehow cut right through the alcoholic haze into me immediately. And I identified with that right away. That I know all about that. I know about, I'm sorry guys, but I know about being a dirtbag. I know about, and then trying to maintain this like life on the outside while I knew I was doing these terrible things. And you know, my sponsor tells me, Kevin, I can't do bad and feel good. If I do bad, I'm going to feel good, but I'm a master of image maintenance. So I can pretend to be looking good on the outside while I'm slowly dying inside. You know, Kevin, how you doing? Fantastic. It's fantastic. Yeah, that's the first word I ever learned in AA. Okay. Fantastic. Kevin, how you doing? Fantastic, man. I'm so sober. I can barely stand it. It's great. You know, and thank God I was able to start getting honest with people about, like, no, I'm falling apart. Actually, I'm dying an inch a day and I need help. Okay. You know that line, you guys, fake it till you make it. You ever heard that before? Raise your hand if you've ever heard that lie before. Fake it till you make it. What a bunch of, like, look, man, I don't know. My book says rigorous honesty. Okay. I think that faking is not in, you show me in our book where it says be a fake it for us. Okay. Please don't fake it. If you're hurting, please tell me, tell us. You think no one cares. I know that you're wrong. I care. I care. If you are a brother or sister in Alcoholics Anonymous and you are hurting, do not fake it, not for another moment. I heard this line the other day, faith it till you make it. I like that one. Okay. I like faith it till you make it, but you don't have to be here alone. You don't have to do it alone. Right. If you're hurting in any way, don't fake it. Come talk to us. Okay. And I understand all about pain and suffering. That's how we get here. Nobody gets here on a victory lap. Nobody gets here on a winning streak. Okay, we get here because of good old-fashioned alcoholic pain and suffering, and we all know it. So the other thing that I want to say here about these terrible things that we do on our sprees, and we try to hide these memories are a nightmare and so on and so forth. Look, we've all got those. Everyone on this call has them. Okay. And as I've been taught about step 5, that deep, dark secret that you have, that horrible, terrible thing that you're never going to share with another living soul. Okay. I want you to know there's probably someone on this call that's done the same thing. Okay. And I've listened to probably over 200 fifth steps at this point. And that's a joy. That's a blessing in my life. The only reason I mention that, I don't mention that to boast or to flex in any way. Just that I have a lot of experience in hearing like everything that is possible within the realm of humanity. I'm telling you, there ain't nothing new, okay? There's nothing new. When I go into a fifth step, I hope to hear something new and exciting. But there's not, okay? And that terrible thing that you've done, I guarantee you, and as I've been taught, if there's a name for it, that means that someone else has done it before, okay? If there's a law against it, that means that so many other people were doing it, that they legally had to pass laws and get the police to stop us from doing it. Okay. So you are not alone. There is nothing that you're going to tell us in your fifth step that is shocking to us in AA. Okay. If you want to shock us, get a commitment at your home group. Okay. That would shock us. Okay. There's nothing that you can tell us that's going to hurt us. The only person it's going to hurt, and it is hurting, is you. Okay. So please do us the honor and the privilege. I can't tell you. Let me tell you something. I sat and listened to a fifth step of a guy at a place called Sunrise Healing Lodge a while ago. This guy spent most of his life in prison. He had tattoos. He was tatted up, indigenous, Native Canadian fella. And what a privilege, what an honor. Like I spent 2 or 3 hours with him. Let me tell you, there is, I think, one of the highlights of my whole life in AA. This just happened a little while ago. He trusted me with a piece of information. And he said to me afterwards, I have never told another living soul what I just told you. Do you know what a joy that is to receive? So think about it that way. Think about it that way. If you have something that you're holding on to that you don't want to share, just think about it as a gift that you're giving to the person you're telling step 5, because the honor and the privilege of being the one to be there while he sets himself free like that is indescribable, indescribable. So if you have something you're holding on to, think about it as a gift that you're giving away. All right. Okay, Brad, back to you.
Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connections, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics.
Okay, so now this is the part that I'm really talking about. Doesn't really apply to us anymore. Okay, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute. This is going to talk about, who do we select? Who do we select to listen to our fifth step. I am of the belief that we do our fifth step with our sponsor. I think there's good reasons for that. As I indicated earlier, that means when I come to them with new information about what's happening this week or next week or whatever, when I bring that information to them, they know the backstory, don't they? So that can come to bear on the counsel that they're going to give me. Also, I think that it builds trust. There's a bond that happens when you share the step 5. That said, I will also say, guys, that one of the first step 5s I ever did, I did with a man named Father Brian out at a place called Mount St. Francis, and that was a transformative experience for me. So I do think one of the things about Father Brian, though, is that he had experience in listening to many fifth steps. A place called Mount St. Francis. They were Franciscan monks, and they kind of devote their lives to listening to fifth steps of people in recovery. So anyone on the call here today who's in Calgary, Alberta, or Red Deer, or anywhere in Alberta, it's in Cochrane. It's just outside of Cochrane, and it's a beautiful place, and I highly recommend those people. The thing that I like about them is that they have experience. Although they're not alcoholics, they have experience in listening to many fifth steps, and they dedicate their lives to receiving fifth steps from people in the recovery community in Calgary. That's what they do. So that was good. For the most part, though, I'm 16 years sober, and I do a fifth step once or twice a year, depending on the need. And I do them with my sponsor. Okay. And I think it's important. And I think, I just think that's a good thing to do. That's just Kevin's opinion. Okay. If your sponsor tells you something different, then your sponsor is right. Okay. In my experience, those are either someone ordained by religion who hopefully has experience doing fifth steps, or do it with your sponsor in AA. Now, recall, what we're going to read right now is really for people. 1939, you got to copy this book. You're all by yourself. You don't know a single other person in AA or in recovery, and you're trying to figure out who you're going to do it with. This is what they write about.
If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintances for a closed mouth, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents, which will hurt them and make them unhappy.
Please do not do your step 5 with your wife or your husband or your parents. I can't stress this enough. Okay. Again, this part is a little antiquated.
We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed, only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity.
Okay, and in the mind of a rationalizing alcoholic, you're going to jump on that. I'm here to tell you that does not apply to anyone on this call. Okay, I know plenty of people who can listen to your step 5. I will listen to your step 5. If you're a woman, I will get you connected. There's other women on this call right now who would love to spend their time listening to your step 5. Okay. I remember even during COVID, when we couldn't get together, it was the first time ever during COVID that I received a step 5 over Zoom. Easy to do. And I never would have guessed that would be just as effective. And it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Whenever possible, I prefer to do them in person. But if it's not possible, you can do them on Zoom. So anyone on the call here tonight who's like, oh yeah, it says I'm willing. It just says I don't have anybody suitable. We got lots of suitable people. We'll get you hooked up. Okay. Back to you, Brad.
We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we're driving at, that he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory and we're prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past.
Okay, guys. So, hey, we're doing great on time. I think we're gonna be all right tonight, man. 5, 6, 7, baby. Let's do it. All right. What we're gonna read right now are known as the step 5 promises. Okay, and they're beautiful, and they're absolutely you can see them happen to people. And the one that I love in particular is we may now have had certain spiritual beliefs, but we are now beginning to have a spiritual experience. Okay. Step 12 says, having had a spiritual experience as the result of these steps, guess what? By step 5, I'm almost like halfway there. Okay. I put in some work, some real work. I'm into action now, man. I'm into action. Okay. Action's the magic word. What's the most important word in Alcoholics Anonymous? The word do, D-O. It's the only word that matters. AA didn't work for me when I needed it, and AA didn't work for me when I wanted it. AA only worked for me when I do it. That is it. Doing is the thing. Okay. Now I've done step 5. I've done step 4. I've done step 5. I've swallowed some big chunks of truth about myself. I have been humbled. It is humbling to sit and talk about your stuff with another person. Deeply humbling. And there is something about it. I don't know why. This is a practice common to, most religious denominations will say, AA didn't invent the idea of confession. Okay. I don't know why, but from a spiritual perspective, this works. It really works. And so now we've had certain beliefs. Now we're having an experience. Okay. And we talked about in step 2, like it's possible for me to believe in God. So what? I can believe in him and still not have a relationship with him. It is possible for me to believe in God and yet keep him out of my heart. Why? Because I'm blocked. I'm blocked off from the sunlight of the Spirit. Why? Because I'm filled with all of this resentment, shame, guilt, fear, shame about sex conduct, all that stuff. I'm blocked. Okay? The things in ourselves that had been blocking me are now starting to be freed up. And now I'm starting to have a little bit of this actual spiritual experience, which is to say, I am actually building a relationship with God. You guys have heard me talk about the Wi-Fi, okay? God being like the great Wi-Fi. We all know what it's like when you got, your phone or your cell phone, and you're not connected to the power. Doesn't mean the power is not there. It just means I'm not connected to it. And now we're starting to feel that power flow in. You guys with me on that? Okay. And it's beautiful. Okay. And it's so beautiful that a lot of people stop right there. Okay. And don't continue on. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Brad, back to you.
Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe.
Amen. I love that one too. The feeling the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. Why? Because the power is starting to flow in, man. Okay. I'm beginning to find in AA what I was looking for every time I drank and used. What am I looking for? Ease and comfort, man. That's it. That's it. I didn't want to drink. I just wanted to feel better. That's all I wanted. I didn't want to hurt people. I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to steal. I just wanted to feel better. That's all I wanted. And sobriety did not make me feel better. Okay? You guys with me on that? I would get physically sober and I would become mentally insane. It hurt more when I was sober than it did when I was drinking. Okay. And the problem is I kept getting sober again. No matter how much I drank, we always get sober again, don't we? Eventually we always come to in the morning and the money's all gone and the dope is all gone and the booze is all gone. And there we are. coming through a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution. God, I will never do this again. Please help me. Okay? In pain, suffering. I get it. I understand it. I just don't feel that way anymore. Okay? I'm here to tell you, man, like I tell newcomers all the time, like the great promise of AA is not just that you don't ever have to drink again. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to feel this way anymore. Okay? I know how you feel. I know you feel like you're the shame of your family. I know that you feel like you're unlovable. I know you feel like you hate yourself. I know you feel like you're going to continue screwing up your life for the rest of your life. I know all about that. I'm just here to tell you, you don't have to feel that way. I don't have to live that way anymore. Okay. And that we are lifted up out of that. So of course the drink problem has been removed because I found in AA what I was always looking for. And I get that sense of ease and comfort in sobriety. But I had to pay a price. I had to do a lot of work, didn't I, to get here? This is not a something for nothing deal. Okay. I have to do some work. And then I start to get this feeling that the drink problem has been removed, man. What a beautiful promise, eh? Okay, so now listen, guys, what we're going to read right now is the start of steps 6 and 7. I want to share a couple things with you before we get into that. And everyone's thinking, oh God, here we go. Okay, we're going to be here till 7:30. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I'm going to try to go through this quick. Okay, I promise. Hang on. Sorry, guys. I'm so good. I was so organized tonight. I even had here, I'm just going to open this and then share this on my screen. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so some of you know my grant sponsor is was a man named Clancy Immisland. He passed a couple years ago, and it says here Clancy I from Venice, California. Probably worked with more alcoholics than any other person in AA today. In 1991, he was recorded doing a 12-step study in Canada, and he shared a 4-step inventory that he sometimes uses. Now, I will tell you, I don't use this inventory all the time. In fact, with someone who's brand new in AA, I do not use this. I do it the big book way. But I have taken other sponsees who've been sober for many years through this, through these steps, and it can be helpful. So he says, I've only recommended the AA Big Book Clear Cut Directions, nor am I suggesting that it should be considered as an AA 4-step. I'm merely sharing an alternative technique that someone uses. His sponsees answer these 7 questions. And so, and this is well known. If I ask my sponsor, who was sponsored by Clancy, do you know about the 7 questions? These are them. So I'll just read them quickly. Number 1, in looking back over your life, what memories are still painful, are still guilt-ridden, are still dirty? Quoting, dirty. 2, in what ways do you feel inadequate as a person? 3, who do you resent and why? Be specific and nasty as you can. 4, what do you conceive to be the ongoing and or recurring problems in your human relationships? 5, what do you consider to be your defects of character as you see them? We're going to get into that here in a minute in step 6 and 7. What would you say today are your goals in life, whether realistic or not? And then step number 7, how do you think AA can in any way possibly help you start towards any of these goals? And I've gone through that with sponsees before, and it's good. It's very good. I've heard it said that Clancy, would always want to find out what your regrets are in life, and then would insist that you start working towards correcting those regrets in your life. And that's, people often ask about how do you make amends to yourself? Make a list of your regrets and then insist on going back and rectifying those regrets. That's how we make amends to ourselves. That's how we catch up for the wreckage of our past by doing that honor to ourselves of cleaning up those regrets. And so the goals thing is similar, right? What are your goals in life? Figure out what you want to do, and then Clancy, I've been told, would do everything he can to help you attain those goals. Okay, so again, here, guys, in terms of step 5, there's really 2 sides of step 5, isn't there? There is listening or doing our step 5, being the step 5E, and then there's being the step 5er, or the receiver of the step 5. Okay, and I want to share with you guys, this is a tactic that I use when I do step 5. This is it. This is, if you want to know what I do, if you're one of my sponsees, when we sit down, this is what we do. Because I used to listen to step 5s and I would go on for hours and hours, like hours and hours and hours and hours, and let them talk and talk and talk every little piece. And I just lost the mental capacity to be able to do it. I just lost the energy to be able to do it. And finally I did one day, and it was like 11 hours, 11 straight hours with this guy, man. 11 straight hours, and he got drunk like a week later. Okay. And it was like, man, I don't feel like I'm being a maximum service here. So I talked to 2 men that I admire very much. I talked to a man named Scott Lee in Nashville, Tennessee, who Brad knows. And then I talked to a man named Myers Raymer. So some of you may have heard of Chris R, Myers R. Yeah, so I asked Scott and I asked Myers, what do they do when they listen to a 5th step? How do they do it? Exactly how do they do it? And of course, because they're both legendary, they both gave me this same answer, which I thought was pretty awesome. So I'm going to share this with you guys right now. I'm sure Rob will put this in the chat as well. But these are the step 5 questions. Okay, so first of all, I sit down with the sponsee and we don't even look at the step 4 yet. I ask them, tell me the worst thing that you've ever done. Okay. I want to make sure that they feel safe. So first of all, we'll go in, we'll say a prayer. I'll tell them a little bit about myself, and I'll tell them that there's nothing that they're going to tell me that's going to shock me, and that everything's okay. And are you ready to begin? And hey, tell me the worst thing that you've ever done, and they'll share something. And what we want to do is 2 things really. I want to be able to tie that to what the defects of character are that created that situation for them. In what ways did selfishness and self-centeredness and dishonesty and fear and self-pity create that situation for them? Okay. And then I want to share a little bit about myself. Like, yeah, man, I've done something similar myself in that way, maybe not to that same extreme, but I know all about the idea behind it, whatever it is. Okay. And we talk about that, and then I say, okay, tell me the next worst thing that you've ever done. And they tell me the next worst thing, and I tie it to defects of character, and I say, man, I know another guy who did that too, and man, here's my experience with that, and I had another sponsee that, on and on, okay? And we talk about ourselves primarily. Here's what my experience is with that, okay? And you're not alone. Remember, guys, I talked about the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Sympathy is, I feel sorry for you. Not a lot of spiritual value there. Empathy is, I feel what you feel. Compassion is where it's at. Compassion is, we are the same. Okay? And you better believe when I'm sitting there and listening to this guy's stuff and he's telling me the worst thing, and I know, and we get it on right then and there, talking about our stuff, man. Trading inventory is what they call it. Trading some inventory. Man, the compassion that grows as a result of that is incredible. Tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. We go through that. Now tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. We go through that. And eventually they just run out of worst things that they've ever done. Okay? And it doesn't take long. And I always love pointing out this guy, we'll say his name was Rick. This guy that I just did, this native fella, tattoos, just got out of jail. Okay? Told me all this stuff. Every worst thing that he'd ever done took about an hour and a half for him to tell me. Every horror, he's 55 years old, spent most of his life in jail. In an hour and a half, he could tell me every terrible thing he'd ever done. And that was it. And it's over. That's it. And I love pointing out to guys, like, look at that. Every terrible thing, all that stuff that you've been carrying around took you an hour and a half, okay, to tell me. Maybe you're not public enemy number 1. Maybe you're just a garden variety alcoholic, okay? And it's a gracious thing. It's really beautiful. So we go through that until, and you'll know intuitively, it'll just eventually just kind of stop, okay? They'll just run out of things. Then we ask these questions, and they were very specific about these particular questions. And I know that some of these might sound or seem strange to you, but I promise you, I have had an affirmative answer to every one of these questions at some time in listening to a 4-step. Okay. So have you ever physically assaulted someone? Have you ever taken someone's life? Have you ever committed a crime that went unknown? Do you have any warrants out for your arrest? Have you ever committed a criminal sexual act? Have you ever had sex with a family member? And have you ever had sexual contact with an animal? They were very specific on those questions. And so that's what I ask. Then, do you guys remember? I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute. Do y'all remember we talked about when we do a step 5 and we're writing out our resentments, we've got some lots of nickel and dime resentments and maybe a couple dollar resentments, but then we got some $50 bills. Do you guys remember that? You guys remember talking about that? The big resentments? Okay. Thank you, Richard. Okay. So what I do is then I'll talk to them about their step 4 resentments, and I want to take a look at the $50 bills. Okay. Number 1, because I want to make sure they have a solid understanding of what they're talking about in column 4, but also because I want to make sure that they understand that tool, the tool of the 4th step. Okay. Column 1, who it is. Column 2, why I'm angry. Column 3, how it affects me. I want to make sure that they know the prayer. Where can anybody tell me off the top of your head right now, where are the step 4 anger prayers? Without looking at your book, what is the step 4 anger prayer? Where are they? It's page 67 and page 552. Brothers and sisters, like I'm here to tell you, if you don't know that, you should, okay? Do yourself a favor. Know where those prayers are, okay? Because number 1, because that's the medicine. And number 2, because the expectation, guys, is that you're going to be teaching this to a newcomer. Where is the step 4 anger prayer? 67, 552. Okay, beautiful. Then we go into column 4. Okay, and where am I to blame? When I look in the past, when I look in the mirror, when I see today. Okay, where am I at with that? We want to make sure that they know that. Okay, and so then we go through what I say is their top 5 resentments, their top 5 fears, and their top 5 sex conduct. And guess what? Most of their sex conduct has already been covered when I asked them the worst thing that you've ever done. For most of us, and this is why talking about sex conduct is so important, because for most of us, the worst thing that I've ever done, well, you know what, maybe I'll say, I don't know. I don't know how, if it's true for women. I will say I listen to male 5th steps, okay? If you're a woman, I can get you hooked up. When I listen to male 5th steps, I will tell you for men, most of the time, the worst thing I've ever done is something sexual. Okay, something that they're ashamed of. And I think that's why it's so important to talk about it. So, okay. So, with all of that said, that's really kind of everything I wanted to tell you guys about step 5. We're going to jump into 6 and 7. We will read this part in the book. And then we'll certainly do some more on it next week, and then we'll get into steps 8 and 9. Brad, do you want to read for us steps? Read up to the step 7 prayer for us, please, in the book. If you're still there, Brad.
Sorry, I muted. So finishing off the bottom of 75. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last.
Okay, and so when it says to read those first 5 proposals, they mean obviously the first 5 steps. And that doesn't just mean, did I leave anything out of my step 4? That means I go take a look at column 1. Physical allergy, mental obsession. Is there anything? Do I have any? Our book says any lurking notion that someday I'm going to be immune to alcohol again. Do I have any reservation about that? Physical allergy, mental obsession. I am in a trap from which there is no escape. Do I have this disease? Confirmed? Yes. 1. Move on. Step 2. Do I believe in God? Period. Okay. That's really the question. Do I now believe? Am I willing to believe there's a power greater than myself? Do I have that? Yes. Have I really, in step 3, made that decision? Have I really, truly made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of Alcoholics Anonymous to the care of God, to the care of anything other than my own self-will? Have I made that decision? If yes, then move on to 4, 5, and now we're going to take a look at step 6.
Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can He now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. When ready, we say something like this.
Okay, Brad, so I'm gonna pause you there. I think what I want to do, guys, is take you just quickly through step 6 as I kind of as I practice it, as I live it, as I understand it, and then we'll do the step 7 prayer next week. I don't want to rush that. So for me, step 6, so first of all, take the hour, do your step 5, and then take the hour, go home for an hour, review those proposals, think about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Think about where you've come from. Think about those first 5 proposals. Think about what those mean to you. Ask yourself sincerely, have I missed anything? Have I tried to make mortar without sand? And listen to this. I once I asked Chat GPT, what happens if you make mortar without sand? Listen to this. Making mortar without sand can result in a mix that lacks the necessary strength and stability. Sand acts like an aggregate in mortar, providing bulk and helping to bind the other components. Without sand, the mortar will be more prone to cracking as it dries and will not have the same capacity. The mortar may become difficult to work with. Sand Anyway, that made me laugh. We're going to crack and be difficult to work with. That sounds like alcoholism, man. That's funny. Trying to make mortar without sand. Step 6, guys, for me is really about awareness and understanding what my defects are. I had no idea. I did not know what my defects were. I went and did step 5 with Father Brian, and he said, Kevin, do you know what your defects of character are? And I started to list off like 72 things that I thought were the thing that was wrong with me. And he said, Kevin, just stop. Just stop. He said, Kevin, you're selfish and you're self-centered and you're filled with self-pity. That's what he said to me. He said, and if you will invite God into your life on a daily basis to help you be aware of those things and to remove those things from your life will change. Okay. And in that moment, he gave me one of the keys to the kingdom because he helped me to keep it simple. I have a list here on my phone of, see if I can, oh yeah, it's right here. I don't know if you guys, can you guys see that written list? It's obscene. Okay. Can you guys see that? I know you can't read the words, but I had a sponsee go do, he went and did his step 5 with another ordained clergyman. And he didn't do it with me. And this is the list of defects of character that he came out of that with. Like, good luck with that. Okay. That is, and that's what it looked like in my head. Okay. And now here I am just trying to keep 72 ping pong balls under the water all the time. Like, it's not going to happen. Okay. And Father Brian gave me one of the keys to the kingdom. He said, Kevin, you're selfish and you're self-centered and you're filled with self-pity. And if you will invite God into your life on a daily basis to help you to remain aware of those in your life and to remove those from your life will change. And he was absolutely right. And we'll get into this more next week, guys. But for me, 6 is really about awareness. And 6 and step 11 are really well tied together, guys, because mindfulness meditation allows me more of a opportunity to become aware, to observe my thinking before it becomes my behavior. Thank God. Okay. So I've learned that there is a level of consciousness above my thinking mind, and the thinking mind is where all those defects are. And when I can become spiritually aware of those defects before I pull the trigger, man, it's nice. What a blessing. You guys understand? What a blessing. So what I want to share with you guys just real quick right now, And then I'm going to wrap up because because we're here at the hour. I'll just go share screen. Okay, I opened this up tonight. I think it'll be helpful. So when I talk about like my defects of character, I think that they all, doesn't our book say on page 62, selfishness and self-centeredness, this is the root of our troubles? Okay, this is the root, and all the other defects of character that I have will all grow from selfishness and self-centeredness, all of them. You know, when we used to do this big book study in person, we used to play a game like, okay, throw out a defective character and I'll tie it back to selfishness and self-centeredness for you. They're all rooted in selfishness and self-centeredness. And by the way, let me tell you, what is the difference between selfishness and self-centeredness? Selfishness is my actions. Self-centeredness is much more dangerous. Self-centeredness is my thinking, okay? And what do you guys think comes first? Selfishness or self-centeredness? 100% self-centeredness. Thinking, me thinking. And what am I thinking about? Moi, moi, me, me. Okay? It's my favorite topic. I'm a recovering only child, man. Lethal, lethal. I made self-centeredness an Olympic sport. Okay, I know self-centeredness on a level that psychiatrists would call paranoid schizophrenic. Okay, thinking about me, and I'm sure that you're talking about me and you're judging me, and no one likes me except you're all secretly jealous of me as well because I'm crazy, crazy. Okay, and that's how I am. That's how I get. Okay, when I'm off the rails, and thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous, thank God for AA, and thank God for God that I have this program that I can use to access this power that has changed my entire life from the inside out. And I appear to most of those people, those normies out there, I appear normal, which is a miracle because I've got a really bad strain of this disease, man. Okay, and I can go out into the world with almost anyone, anytime, anywhere, and appear normal. For brief periods of time, and then I got to run back to y'all so I can get my medicine. Okay, I believe that we live in Alcoholics Anonymous and we visit the world. I live in AA and I visit the world. When I live in AA and I visit the world is a beautiful place. When I try to live in the world and visit AA, I'm in trouble, man. I can't stay sober on a tourist visa in AA. Okay, I need to become a permanent resident. You guys with me on that? Okay, for real, for real. Okay, so step 6, this is the root of our trouble. Okay, selfishness and self-centeredness. And so now I'm going to share with you guys what I do. This is just what I do. I'm just sharing it with you. This is, I would say, what I call the big 5. The big 5 that I pray on every day. That's P-R-A-Y, pray on every day. Okay, selfish, self-centered, dishonest, fear, and of course, my arch nemesis, self-pity. Okay, self-pity. And one of the things, guys, that I want to just make clear when we're talking about self-centeredness, in common like vernacular, we have aligned self-centeredness with vanity. Like, oh, he's self-centered, she's self-centered, she thinks so great of herself, she's looking at herself in the mirror all the time. That's not the self-centeredness that I am talking about. That is not the self-centeredness that caused me so much pain. And I was so self-centered, like I didn't know I was self-centered. The alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. And I certainly didn't think so. Okay, until I began to realize, like when we talk about our inner monologue, that self-hatred voice, you know, I'm such a piece of garbage, that's self-centeredness. Whether I'm thinking well of myself or thinking poorly of myself, I am thinking only of myself. Okay, and when I am thinking that way, I am detached from God because I've become God in my own mind in that moment. Okay. Bill Wilson says that self-centered fear is the chief activator of our defects of character. It's the chief activator of our defects. Okay. And I think of myself and I'm obsessed with what's going to happen to me. And I'm obsessed with the fact that I don't think you like me and that I'm going to get hurt and that my reputation is going to be damaged. I'm going to be humiliated, whatever it is, on and on and on. All these fears. And I start to react. I start to act out. I start to step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate over and over and over and over again. And please don't think I need to drink to be that guy. Okay. I'm talking about alcoholism. Alcoholism, the disease that begins when I stop drinking. That's how and the end result of the pain of living that way is what? Jack Daniels. Because that's the only way we know to deal with that pain unless I come and take this spiritual program in Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay. So that's the bad news, guys. Those are the big five that I invite God into my life every day to become aware of and to remove from my life. Okay. Selfish, self-centered, dishonesty, fear, self-pity. Next week, I'm going to light it up, man. Next week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn these defects of character into assets of character. I'm going to show you how to find the positive opposite for each one of these. Okay. And, it's one of my favorite parts of this entire big book study, and it's one of my favorite parts of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever known and learned in AA. So that's it, you guys. I love you all. Thanks everyone for coming. It's absolute joy of my life to be here with you guys, and thank you. It's amazing to me that any Tuesday I show up here, that there's anyone here. And I really, when I say that I love you guys, I mean that sincerely. And I want you to also know that I don't think anyone benefits from this more than me. Okay. I have not been closer to God today than I am with y'all right now. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel about it. Okay. And I mean that sincerely. And, I'm alone in Houston, Texas right now. I'm sitting in my hotel room. Can you imagine what a joy this is for me? So it's a blessing, and thank you all. We'll close with the Lord's Prayer.
Rob, I just didn't want to, I'm